For all of you who listen to Submersion and own an Android device, go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android device. I personally use the app and I love it. I can search for the podcast I want to listen to, select it as a favorite, and have it just a click away. Make sure you select Submersion as a favorite so you don't miss any of our new episodes every Thursday. Again, the app is the Podcast Republic app, available on Android devices. Episode 99.
What? Holy cow.
That's a lot. It's a lot of episodes.
It's a lot of episodes.
Who thought we'd be here, boys?
Nobody.
No, hell no.
When 98 came out, then Animal Crossing came out, I'm like, oh, that's it. It's done.
It's over.
It is done. And that is honestly the reason why you're not getting this episode on time.
Animal Crossing happened.
I apologize.
I don't.
It's not because of the pandemic. It's not because half of America is shut down. It's not because New York is like the apocalypse right now. It is because Animal Crossing launched.
Pretty accurate with your descriptive of New York, though, right there, Kyle.
It's insane. I was watching the news tonight, and they are renting like refrigerated trucks to put bodies of the deceased in because there's so many.
And the federal government is trying to say that it's not nearly as bad as we expected, blah, 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 blah.
Hey,
but no.
Business is going to be open by April, right? That's what Trump said.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know what to believe.
Sure as no, not believing him.
I think I tend to agree with that.
Timeline seems a bit aggressive, but I mean,
yeah.
Jamie, you're a resident scientist. Is this a hoax?
This is not a hoax.
Okay.
It's not a hoax, but also we got to keep our spirits up, keep on doing what everyone's doing, try to fight back by, staying safe, staying secluded, and just listen to the sweet dulcet tones of Kyle's and me and everyone and playing Animal Crossing and watching submarine movies. Stick in your house. You know what? Check out maybe Wolf's Call. That was a pretty good one. Find Torpedo for us and send it to us. Maybe do that.
Wolf's Call and The Command, two very good movies, I thought.
Yeah.
Available right now on Netflix.
Is Phantom still available on Netflix? Check it out.
No, it is not.
What? In these trying times.
Would you like an egg during these trying times?
Always Sunny reference.
Oh, there it is.
But anyways, that's my resident science take is stay inside. Just enjoy it a little bit. Look at your loved one. Say, hey, honey, love you, Danzig. And then Danzig will be like, well, I declare. Right?
I do declare, Jamie,
there has been a murder down in Savannah.
Wow.
Office
reference. I
reference.
did not know Danzig was Southern now, but
she's a very fine Southern gentleman.
Yeah, she was always Southern. Don't you remember the last time Danzig came on the show? She said, I do declare, and she was all like flirting with Brom, and I was like, hey, step off.
I do declare.
That's why you were at that marriage counseling.
Declare me,
Danzig
was all over Brom, and it was embarrassing. Let me just tell you that.
I was embarrassed for her.
Goodness.
But anyways,
we'll just keep rambling until we get an alarm over here.
Something like that. Goodbye, dive.
What began as an innocent conversation among friends would soon spiral out of control and later be referred to by future generations as the eighth wonder of the modern world. Mac East Studios takes you on the journey of your lifetime as your captains Alex the Mustard Man, the artist formerly known as Brom, Jamie the Ointment, Kyle El Capitan, and Zach the Backbone present Submersion.
Brom, what did we watch this week?
All right, filling in for Alex, who said he will be back for episode 100. Unfortunately, he is on the battlefield serving our great nation and the fields of Tarkov. This week, though, however, for episode 99, nothing too special, but something that you guys can watch from 2019 is the film Midway.
Our boy, our guy, Alex's guy, actually.
This is a Roland Emmerich
surprised
film.
me.
Roland Emmerich.
Surprised me why Alex is not on. And just for anybody who doesn't know what Brom's talking about, Alex is not actually at war. I can't imagine him defending us, but he's out there virtually doing something.
Alex would be a conscientious dissenter or whatever it's called.
Objector? Dissenter.
He dissents.
Conscientious deserter.
Deserter, sure. Something along those lines. One of those things. But yeah, his boy, Roland Emmerich of ID4 fame. I know. What else did he do?
Kidding me? ID4?
2012?
Day After Tomorrow?
The Patriot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, he did The Patriot?
He did. Did
he originally was wanting... So this is... Okay, so Midway was this... He wanted to make this 20 years ago, but the studios didn't... They said no. So that's why he did The Patriot instead.
Yeah, and I was, it was interesting because me and my brother, I did have Patrick watch this just in case we were low on hosts, and I was like, you have to come out of retirement. And he'd be like, I'm too old for this shit. But I'd force him to come out of retirement. And we were discussing kind of what we thought or why we thought the film was how it is. And we'll get into kind of like maybe some of the critiques of it. But it seemed very quick given how much time it spent, like how much time it spans and how many events occur. And he was saying, do you think it was
short little tableaus is kind of how I
And
felt.
So we were like, oh, was it a 3-hour film that he cut down to 2? And I was kind of saying, well, maybe he just got hired to bring in a movie and not have it be like a Pearl Harbor. And we were speculating about how like, oh, well, he's never really made a very long film. He usually makes films that come in around this time and around this money and stuff like that. But then when I was reading the trivia, he was like super invested in this. He's been trying to make it for a long, long time.
Yeah. It's interesting, honestly.
Yeah. So I guess that wouldn't be necessarily the case. He used to, when he first tried to get this made, he had a bigger budget than he ended up having this time. Like he tried to get it made for 150.
I feel like this movie gets made like every 15, 20 years though, like as technology evolves. You can go look back at Pearl Harbor. You got things like Tora. There's a slew of these movies.
Well, it's weird too because Pearl Harbor, even in whenever it was made, what was it, 2001 or something like that?
Yeah.
Those dollars, it costs more just raw regular dollars than it costs to make this movie. So with technology going up and up, you can make something that's of pretty large scale for an amount of money that seems very small. He made this for $100 million, which seems tiny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In 2019, like I'm surprised you'd see like a major World War II movie in 2019 with only $100 million budget.
Yeah.
And especially with the actors we've got in here. So we've got Ed Skrein is our leading man, Dick Best.
Yeah. You should call him by his real name. Ricky Dicky Best, his friends called him.
Or as it would appear on a lot of like rosters as like Best, Dick.
Right.
Yep. I know. That is where it's at. That's great.
I'm surprised he didn't become a submarine captain, to be honest.
He should have.
Yeah.
He was moving his way up through the ranks.
Yes, he was very quickly, and sub was probably the next step.
Right.
Or it could be. But so we've got him, we've got Patrick Wilson, we've got Woody Harrelson, Luke Evans, Mandy Moore, Dennis Quaid, and Aaron Eckhart.
Also Nick Jonas.
Yeah.
Yes, Nick Jonas is in this.
And also Alexander Ludwig, that guy.
Sure.
And also Woody Harrelson.
No,
yes.
The only reason I mentioned Alexander Ludwig is right in the beginning. He's the guy who dies, like the guy who Dick Best's friend that he tries to find,
Avery or whatever.
No, it was Roy Pierce, and I was like, I recognize this person. Like I know I've seen you somewhere. And when I looked him up, he was the David Spade's long lost son that he didn't know he had, who came to visit in Grown Ups 2. And I was like, oh dear God. Like the only thing I know you from is Grown Ups 2, and that's pretty sad.
That's never a good thing.
No, it's not good.
Oh my goodness. Well, should we get into this?
I think we probably should.
Nah.
We could talk about these people in it forever and ever because there's a huge cast and there's just like so many different historical things. It's really interesting World War II stuff. So I think we probably should. All right.
Okay.
So we open. We're in Japan. It's like 1930 something. I don't know. And the war hasn't really started. I mean, I think things have been ramping up in Europe and stuff, obviously, and there may be areas that are in war. It sounds like Japan had just invaded China and stuff. And our boy, Patrick Wilson, a.k.a. Edwin Layton, he is there as like the attaché or whatever to the Japanese naval fleet. And they're having like a whole dinner, and they're like toasting to like the continued alliance between Japan and the United States, and may we not go to war and all that stuff. But Layton, he's a pretty sharp guy. He sees something in his face, so he goes to talk to the guy afterwards. The guy who he's talking to isn't yet the main commanding officer, but he ends up being the Rear Admiral Taemin Yamaguchi. Or no, sorry, the Admiral Asakuro Yamamoto, right? I think that's right. He's the commander-in-chief of the Combined Fleet. And I think that's right. And he...
the guy that Layton's talking with was Yamamoto.
Yamamoto, yeah.
Or so no, Yamaguchi.
That was Yamaguchi?
It was Yamaguchi, yes. Yamaguchi was the reasonable one.
No, I feel like it's Yamamoto. Yamamoto is the one who was targeted for...
I thought Yamamoto was the ship.
He studied at Harvard.
Episode 99.
Yeah,
we know our stuff.
Nobody knows what's going on.
Yamamoto was more the nationalist, and Yamaguchi was the one that was more willing to see reason and was trying to negotiate with Layton.
I do not believe this is true.
Okay.
It says that Yamamoto found himself in surprise to come back into power because he was going to be taken out by the more nationalist group. I may be wrong, but I could have sworn that was who
If you look at the photos, Yamamoto is the guy that
yeah, I'm looking at
is
more
the main
like
bad guy.
The historical photos, so that may not be the best way to do it. Anyways.
Yamaguchi, I know for a fact, is a guy that gets pitched as more of the guy that tries to see reason and tried to stop this on the Japanese side of things.
He chose to go down with his aircraft carrier.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would argue the good guy of the Japanese there.
Anyways, I'm talking to Layton, and Layton is kind of like, what's going on here? And he's, I'm hearing that you are a target for assassination, because you're not like an uber nationalist. And they kind of hash it out a little bit about whether they think that, it'll get to being a war or not. And it seems like Layton ends up coming to the conclusion that the United States should be worried, that clearly there's powers in Japan heading towards striking the United States and not allowing us just to be like a neutral nation, that they would come after the United States. And so we flash forward to more or less the eve of Pearl Harbor. And we jump over to the USS Enterprise, where we got our hot dogging Lieutenant Dick Best, Ricky Dicky Best. And he's out for like a little patrol, and he's like, yo guys, check this out. You're not always going to have full gas. Your engine may be shot. You may not even, your flaps may not work. They may have been shot to shit. So you got to be able to land no matter what. And his guy in the back is like, oh, fucking Ricky Dicky Best, like, why you gotta always be hot dogging and showboating? Why can't we just do it normally? He's like, this is gonna save your life someday. Someday we're gonna be having to land this plane in dire conditions, and you're gonna thank me. So they go down, and it's like a crazy maneuver. They're kind of like going all sideways, doing all kinds of crazy shit. They go like down below, almost to the water, and then come back up and pop right onto the thing. And everyone kind of looks at him as being almost a dangerous person on the ship. He's someone who kind of doesn't care for his own safety and thus might get people into trouble. And the person that he kind of butts heads with Wade McCluskey, Luke Evans' character, who, in the end, actually, his portrayal here was strangely not super heroic. He's like a hero. Like he's like one of the only people ever to win like multiple Navy crosses and stuff or something. Like he's like a true hero. His portrayal here kind of makes him seem like the safer version of what Dick Best was. Dick Best is kind of, and even McCluskey's character says at one point, like, he's the reason why we're going to win the war is because you have people like him who will kind of sacrifice themselves and do what needs to be done when it gets down to it. And so anyways, people are kind of heading back to, some people leave, they're heading back towards Pearl Harbor. He doesn't get to do that. He's kind of sticking around. And so the people are flying back that way, including one of his friends. And they start to see things happening at Pearl Harbor because the Japanese start to attacking. And they're seeing, and they're like, what's going on? Seems like someone's getting into deep shit. So because they really shouldn't be shooting their like anti-aircraft stuff at us. And then all of a sudden they see that everything's gone to shit. And there's all kinds of, we have a bunch of different areas that are being hit at this point. At one point we do see Roy Pierce kind of saving a young kid from the USS Arizona, which is getting struck. And that's the boat that we actually mentioned in the last episode during the Jeopardy part that was sunk at Pearl Harbor. And he ends up being killed before he's able to get off the boat because he's helping this other person. And
that guy, so in this whole scene, like, this guy is strung up on this wire going between the Arizona and another boat. There's fire all around. He gets over to the other side, and there is so much CGI in this movie. The guy's leg catches fire from, like, CGI, and he just, like, calmly pats it out. Like, he's freaking out about everything else, but then, like, he's like, oh, okay, I'm just on fire. It didn't look great. I don't know.
No, I agree. It's something that Roland Emmerich has done. Like,
I like laughed.
Even something
you got to be kidding me, man.
Yeah, even something like White House Down, which is another Roland Emmerich one. That one is like chock full of CGI, even though it's just set in like Washington D.C. So it's like kind of an odd trend right now is trying to make these films on the cheap, because you don't have to do these big set things by we'll just like CGI that car falling off that bridge, and then it looks like shit, kind of.
Yep.
So, anyways, Pearl Harbor occurs. Everyone starts to hear about it, and you see a bunch of things kind of working now. The United States is not in a great position to enter the war. We only have like a couple of carriers, and one of them was badly damaged at Pearl Harbor, and they have to try to figure out that. They put Nimitz in charge, and we've talked about Nimitz before in this, based on different episodes and stuff, and he's like a badass, and he kind of takes control. He even says, like, when they're like promoting him, they're like, oh, what do you think of the situation? He's like, we are in big trouble. I don't envy the guy who gets to like take charge of this. And they're like kind of staring at him. He's like, oh shit, it's me, isn't it? And so he kind of takes over. Dick Best, he comes back to Pearl Harbor because obviously everyone's kind of pulled back to Pearl Harbor. And he, tries to find his friend Roy Pierce and is able to find him having been, burnt to death. I mean, they're able to recognize him from his class ring and stuff like that. And so they have a memorial for him as well. And so you kind of see how close everyone is and kind of all the I guess the personal revenge they want. I mean, basically how personally Pearl Harbor is. They had a lot of friends who get killed in this, so they're ready and raring to go. The other thing that's kind of mentioned here is that the Japanese, some of the other naval officers think they made a mistake in the attack because there could have been a third wave of fighters to destroy the oil reserves and stuff, and they didn't do that. And so they're like, wait, I'm confused. Why didn't we? And I don't know if we necessarily have I'm sure historically we have an adequate answer. We didn't get an adequate answer here as to why that was, that it wasn't hit. But basically, it would have crippled Pearl Harbor and everyone would have had to pull back to like San Diego. And that would have made it really, really difficult for the United States to do a lot of the stuff that we were able to do. So in the Pacific theater. So that became like kind of a big sticking point that they already knew that the guy who's in charge, Yamaguchi. God, this is terrible. Or Yamamoto. Sorry. I don't know which name it was. They're very similar. And they think he's just being a little bit, I guess, cautious, or maybe even letting us off the hook a little bit by not doing that kind of stuff, maybe out of honor or whatever. That there's other people in the Navy who feel like they could have been more aggressive in doing that. What else happens here? There's a bunch of funerals and stuff.
There's the famous quote, and it shows up in Tora, Tora, Tora. It's uttered by Yamaguchi as he, I think, is taking in dinner or whatnot, and he listens to the radio about the results of the bombing on Pearl Harbor. And he says, I fear we have awoken a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve.
Right. Now, there's no evidence of him actually saying that in real life either.
Right.
But you're right. That is in Tora.
It's in both movies.
Yep. Yeah. He basically took it from another movie. And then, the other thing that they do here is that they have Leighton, who we saw earlier, kind of knowing that this is something that probably was going to happen. He's kind of saying, like, I'm part of the worst intelligence disaster in American history. Like, this is crazy. But everyone's kind of turning to him to be like, you warned us for years, and we now need you to help us figure out the next moves, because we now know that you are correct, like that you're a really good analyst and we need you. And so he kind of takes control. Nimitz looks to him, and then he points also to a guy named Joseph Rocafort, who's a part of cryptography, and kind of deciphering all these messages, trying to figure out now what the next steps for the Japanese might be. And so it seems so this movie goes very fast. I'm sure there were I don't even know how much time passes between this point and Midway, but it almost seems instantaneous that they are basically starting to realize, get some chatter over the airwaves, that there's going to be a target for the Japanese called AF. And the cryptography teams, they think it means Midway, but Washington thinks it's the Aleutian Islands. So they think the Aleutian Islands seems to make the most sense as a target, being like actual U.S. soil and stuff like that, like that they would go after that. And Aleutian Islands, there was some reason why they thought AF would mean that. But the cryptography things seem to think, no, Midway's the logical strategic point that they would hit. And we know from the scenes that they're showing with the Japanese side that that's exactly where they're going. And they're playing all these war games. And part of the war games and kind of what they're saying and what ends up being a big part of them losing, spoiler alert, historically, and they do not kind of accept the idea that the United States may be onto the plan and be positioned in a way to counterattack. And so even when
right, because they keep saying that all the reinforcements must come from Pearl Harbor, and somebody's like, well, what if they don't? And he said, you have to have them come from Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, they basically,
there's no other way they would ever come from it.
They're always underestimating the United States. Not only are they saying like, we're destined to take over, but they're also saying like, oh, they got terrible planes. Oh, they're getting lucky whenever we do anything. And then in this case,
they don't have the bravery to win.
Yeah, they don't have the bravery. Oh, that was an unusually brave soldier of theirs and that kind of stuff. But then also this situation where like they don't accept the possibility that we would decipher the codes and then maybe figure out to ambush them. And they're like, no. That's just not possible, given our plan is too good. And so anyways, to prove that Midway is the target, Nimitz is like, you need to get proof. And so they send out a message, cryptid or kind of secret message saying that they've run out of water in Midway. They need more water. And so they decrypt a message back saying, AF is out of water. Good time to strike or something like that. And so it's confirmation that Midway is, AF, because there's no other way that it would have been. So they can start to get everything going. There's some kind of minor points here that are historical. Like they have a time when we see Dennis Quaid, who plays kind of like a pretty I don't know how to say, like aggressive captain, I guess. And he's stubborn. Yeah, he's no nonsense. He's stubborn. He's kind of like, and he ends up getting a bad rash, shingles, and he has to be taken out of action. And another guy takes over his boat. And it kind of ends up being an important point in the movie, or in the historically.
It is, and I was disappointed that it was, because I thought it was just going to be some random quote where he's like, "Man, I've got this rash," and we'd never. I mean, the way this movie was going, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if we're going to hear about that." But I
totally thought the same thing. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they're actually doing something with the characters in this scene, like talking about a rash." Like usually there's like no small talk, like everything like matters.
Well, no, it's called Chekhov's rash. It's like if you talk about a rash, you better use that rash in the second act. You know,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's taken out of action. Historically, it's a very important point, but in the movie, it's not a very important point, because the point is he was very stubborn and aggressive, and probably he would have tried to chase down the Japanese after Midway. But remember, the guy pulls back. And says, no, we've won. Let's not like turn this into a loss or whatever. And the idea is that because just this fortuitous thing that he was the guy who replaced this other commander, that likely it was like a very good thing for the United States. And so there's a lot of luck and a lot of these other things that are kind of going our way for the United States. We have the better intelligence. They're underestimating us. These changes in command, including the fact that Dick Best takes over like the command of the flight crews and stuff like that. That kind of ends up being kind of a fortuitous thing for a number of reasons. So everything kind of lines up for this kind of really a miraculous kind of underdog victory to kind of turn the tides of the Japanese the war. So anyways, they're like, we need to know exactly. I mean, this is kind of when we get into the Midway, right? more or less.
I mean, at this point, have we had the
there's Doolittle raid.
with
There's
Aaron
a Doolittle
Eckhart.
raid, right? Yeah. So they also have the Doolittle raid. They have that happen, and it's supposed to be another thing that's kind of morale boosting. Is that they kind of help get Aaron Eckhart and who's Doolittle and their raid going to attack Tokyo, and it's a very interesting part, but not necessarily super vital to the story of the movie. Yeah. Right? Was there much that came out of it? I kind of forgot it happened until it came back at the end.
No.
Yeah.
But
it's an incredible thing that happened in real life.
Yeah, and it's a pretty, and I actually thought the scenes were pretty cool, like in China and stuff like that.
That could have been a movie in itself. Just that just call it Doolittle.
Yeah, especially when they were flying and they were like, we may not make it. Like you have to launch now. They basically got to a point where they were going to get detected and probably attacked, and so Doolittle had to take off from the aircraft carriers, and they were like, we're pretty far away from Tokyo. Like we're probably not going to make it to the landing spot, so we're going to have to ditch. And it's just like it's scenes like that I look at and I go, wow, it's like seriously brave. That's some courageous shit. And it's these movies make you sit there and wonder, like, could I do it? And I guess in these situations, you'd have to assume yes, that everything's so like dire in like the world and stuff like that you do it. But like, it's very, I don't know, you're putting your life out there. And that's like, seems like pretty courageous. Anyways, they go out and there was some pretty cool scenes where they're like flying. And they're like, are we over land? If we're over land, we got to get the hell out of this plane. And they basically just jump out of the plane with their parachutes and land in China. And they have to try to find their way to get rescued. And they have like some sympathizers there because they're the United States. And they try to help them. And it's supposed to show like kind of the sacrifice of those Chinese sympathizers as well during that time, helping them get out of China. And so once we kind of heading towards Midway, Dick Best kind of takes over command of the squadron. That puts Luke Evans' character Wade McCluskey back into the planes. Like he hadn't been doing as much kind of wingman flying at the time. And so they're like, oh, you got to remember how to fly. And he's like, don't you effing worry about it. I'm an American hero. Ever heard of it? And so basically they're telling the intelligence people like Leighton, like, give us your best estimate. And they're like, oh, well, these things, it's not exact science. We're not really sure. And they're like, we need you just to give us like a time and a direction. And so then he's like, well, then, okay, 7 a.m. from the north, whatever he said, 7 a.m. for the northwest, they're going to first attack or something like that. Like these very precise instructions.
He went from nothing to extremely specific.
And I think I can, yeah. And it makes sense. It's basically like a very scientific answer to start where it's just like, oh, well, these things, you can't say it exactly. There's many possibilities. And it's like, no, just give us what we need to know. We need to know a single thing. So what would you say if you had that? And he said exactly if he was forced to say one thing, here's the one thing. And so they kind of get everything positioned, ready for it. They even have a submarine. At this point, finally, we're getting some submarine action.
They set up a submarine, like, trap line, basically. Just all these subs in a row, ready to strike.
Yeah. And the submarines are out there, and they even... they try to go after, even before like the planes are launched and stuff like that, they try to go after one of the carriers and shoot. They go silent and they decide to attack. If they attack, of course, they're going to be attacked right back. And so they shoot a torpedo and their periscope is sighted. And so they end up getting kind of
depth charge,
classic depth charge really right here.
I know we haven't had we didn't really get much depth charging in the last two movies we've been watching, and God knows we didn't see it in Godzilla movies. So it's been a while since we've seen some depth charging.
Yeah, like more the classic depth charging, because we did have that helicopter depth charging in Wolf's Call.
Oh, shoot.
That's more futuristic depth charging, though.
Yeah. We don't know. We don't even know if that's real. And
so then the submarine kind of gets... they get kind of pinned down by these depth charges, and the whole fleet's kind of moving at that point. Like even after a little while, the submarine's like, are they gone? And you can kind of see them, the boat that had been depth charging them is kind of trailing behind, but the whole fleet has kind of moved off a little bit to a different location. And so the Japanese kind of attack Midway. We see some funny scenes with the director Ford, who's like being allowed to direct this stuff, who's kind of just like putting the cameras right in the action because he really wants to get some good shots. But the Japanese attack, and then the Americans counterattack almost immediately, send out a few different squadrons. And it's a little bit confusing exactly what happened. So it seems like the first wave of planes get there perfectly. And they are able to start bombing, trying to bomb, trying to destroy the carriers, but they don't have a huge amount of success that first pass through, including, no, this wasn't, Nick Jonas was still, that was later. But then the next wave comes in and it's the same thing, I think. And then, but like McCluskey and Best, when they're flying out, they're having trouble locating the fleet because the Japanese fleet has started to move a little bit with these changes. And they can't really see them. At the same time, the Japanese are trying to like bide some time because they want to switch over to torpedoes for their planes in order to be able to attack or destroy the American fleet. Like they want to take out the boats and not just have like regular bombing stuff. And so, but like another of the Japanese commanders, like, we need to attack quickly. We need to counterattack now. And if we're changing, we're like dead in the water. And he's like, no, like they're not good enough. The Americans aren't good enough. We're going to change and we're going to destroy them like we're destined to do. And that's like an important key point because basically they can't put any counterattacks on as long as they are not or exchanging these into the torpedoes. And so as they're flying along, McCluskey, they're looking around, they can't find the fleet. McCluskey catches one of that boat who's like a straggler. And he's like, I bet that boat's trying to catch up. So he makes the call that they're going to go after the fleet, even though it's like pretty questionable whether they would have enough fuel to be able to do that. And it turns out to be right. It's a very famous case. Basically, it's like that one decision to go after that boat with the hopes of finding the fleet may be like the turning point of the entire war, because they find it and oh boy, do they go to town on the Japanese fleet because they Best destroys one of them. I think another one gets destroyed in this one. Is it maybe two?
A bunch of stuff gets
carriers
destroyed. One of the big things that we see here is Best for most of the movie was just like preaching, we've got to do these dive bombs. We got to practice these, and we got to get so good at dive bombing because carpet bombing makes us, it's like a rookie move, and I think the Japanese even comment on that at one point.
Yeah.
And McCluskey hasn't been doing it, and he's getting right down there, and he's about to dive bomb. He's getting so close, but he doesn't get close enough. He drops the bomb, misses by like 10 feet right off the side of the boat.
Right.
Come on, man. What are you doing out there?
Man, you got to
practice.
You got to be Ricky Dicky Best, because Ricky Dicky Best, he does it straight down towards the thing, and it's like super risky, and basically they almost crash and stuff like that. But basically, when he drops his bomb, it's gonna hit. He knows it. And so, anyways, they fly on back. At this point, Nick Jonas,
they destroyed 3 of the 4 aircraft carriers.
Yeah, Nick Jonas, he's down for the count. He's been his plane has been shot down. A few other people have been shot down or shot at. McCluskey's been shot in the shoulder. And Best also had some trouble with his oxygen and, is having trouble breathing and starting to cough up blood and stuff like that. But they've lost a huge number of people. So when they get back to the fleet or back to the Enterprise, they are basically looking around being like, we need to destroy that last carrier to really win this battle because they could still turn around and we could be in like a world of hurt. And so they go into the group of people who are all shell shocked. Like, are you guys ready to go back in? And they're like, okay, we'll do it. And his co-pilot though is like, I'm not sure I can. Every time I fly with you, I feel like I'm going to die. You don't care about anything. Like, I care about my life. You don't seem to care about even your life, let alone mine. And he's like, come on, man, let's just do it. We got to do it. And he does.
He does. It's really,
he fucking does it.
I mean, that's literally all it takes, right?
Yeah, he fucking does it, man. He does it. He gets in that plane and he fucking does it. But anyways, they fly out and they do, kind of one last attempt at taking out that last carrier. and even though I think they have like 16 planes or something, like a pretty small amount at this point, and Best hits that carrier as well. And it's kind of this amazing thing. I think at that point, he was one of only 2 people ever to destroy 2 aircraft carriers in one day. I can't even believe there's another person. That seems nuts. But he was the first person ever to do that. They're pretty sure he destroyed... I mean, they know he destroyed one of them, and then they're pretty sure he was one of the hits on the other one. After that, like the guy the final commander, the guy who's in command of that final carrier... it's clearly not going to be able to survive. It's on fire and stuff. And so he kind of goes down with the ship along with his XO and lets all the younger people leave the ship, and it sinks. Best has, or everyone else has returned to the USS Enterprise, and they're kind of looking, and they have kind of assumed that Best probably went down somewhere. They're going to try to find him. But at the last moment, heroic, stirring final scene, you hear a little bit of a plane. It was always funny what people could hear in these scenarios, like just the idea that they would be able to hear his plane, in the middle of an ocean, probably with wind whipping everywhere and these giant boats churning in the water and stuff like that seems a bit absurd. But they're like,
or how about when they're flying around with the cockpits wide open and they're just casually talking,
they're like chatting
than I'm talking right now.
Yeah, like chatting to each other and stuff. It was very funny to.
Well, a machine gun's going off too. He's like, "Hey man, just be sure to aim to the left." Okay, pop, 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 pop.
Or like how they would hear that a plane's coming, but then they'd look over and the plane was only like 5 feet away from them. It's like, well, you could probably have seen it before you heard it. It was like right over there, like flying at you. But anyways, he's basically in the exact same situation that we saw him at the beginning of the film. He can't. His plane's all busted up. The engine has stalled out because he doesn't have gas anymore, and he lands it perfectly. No big deal. Kind of gets out. He's coughing up blood like crazy. At this point, his co-pilot his gunner has burnt his hands up. Like they're all like in pretty bad shape, but they're victorious. And the United States basically says, "Okay, we're going to pull back and regroup because this was a great victory," and everyone's super happy. Leighton kind of gets the final word that the Japanese are withdrawing, and is able to pass it over to Nimitz and to in order to celebrate and stuff like that. And it's a great victory that turns the tide of the war. That's pretty much the end. I mean, they do go through how it happens to everyone, and we see the return of Dick Best to Pearl Harbor to see his wife, Mandy Moore. Forgot to mention Mandy Moore. And he ends up being medically retired. That was the last flight he ever did, was destroying that second aircraft carrier, because they kind of mention, I tore up my lungs with acid. It's not exactly what happened. He had tuberculosis. He basically was not able to fly ever again because of his lung condition. It's more or less it.
Wow. There you have it. Midway.
Nick Jonas was captured.
Yes. I was going to actually say Nick Jonas's scene after he was captured was
Bruno Guido, which I assume was a true life persona, but he was cast overboard with the anchor. At least that's what's shown. It's hard to say if that's what actually happened to him or not, but
that I could not confirm.
I don't know. I'd be surprised if that was confirmable, because we've had
the other guy survived. There was the other guy with them that could have survived as a POW, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And Nick Jonas does all his own stunts.
That's true.
So he was tied to an anchor that they threw overboard into the ocean.
Pretty crazy stuff.
Did he get out alive? Any songs lately? I don't know.
I think the big thing is whether a mermaid swam up and basically like kissed him a whole bunch to give him like the air, and that's how he survived.
Real Hook situation, if you will.
Exactly. It's just like Hook. That's actually where they got the idea from
Hook.
Bruno Guido.
Hook.
Getting the Hook over there? What the heck's going on?
Hook. I watch it every Christmas time.
Do you?
It's a Christmas movie for me. Yep.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
My favorite Super Nintendo game. Just kidding.
Hey, top 25, Kyle.
I am top 25 speedrunner on that game.
Did you? So was it love it or hate it next, or do we do our reviews?
We want to do love it or hate it?
Let's do it. Let's do our reviews first, so they don't get tainted in any way by the love it or hate it.
Oh, they won't get tainted. If anything, they'll just be even more so.
It's your podcast. I'm sorry, Kyle. You're the captain.
Well, yes.
Wait, so we are doing it?
Are we?
I don't care. Brom's got a good point.
Let's give it to Brom. Let's throw him a bone.
All right, give that guy a bone.
Do it.
Jeez, guys. Okay. This film had. I think I came out of it with some mixed feelings. I was captivated during the film. I was having those moments where, like, the Americans, just kept having these near misses where they almost delivered a strike to the Japanese. The torpedo just misses. This bomb just misses. They shoot down one of the heroes, and the hero's dead, and they just that one rival of Dick Best, gets his torpedo in the water, and it goes sailing. He gets shot down and crashes his plane, and it. Near miss, and it's like, oh my God, come on, somebody, even though you know how this ends, like, it was just like, oh my gosh, like, what's it take to actually deliver a blow to the Japanese? Like, and the Japanese are always like, they're starting to get like really worried and nervous. I'm like, why are you worried or nervous at this point? Like, you keep smoking us. But, ultimately, you get to the turning point there. Dick Best turns on the heroics, and they start to take down the aircraft carriers. The overall style of the film, I thought it was just a little bit too choppy with the quick cuts back and forth. I kind of described it as like these little miniature tableaus where they're trying to cram all the different little stories that occurred during this time. Pearl Harbor, the Doolittle raids, the actual battle in the waters near Midway, and then all these other little things in between. They got this ensemble cast, and they really felt like they were trying to give each of them some airtime, but they weren't actually doing any actual character development with any of them. And I think that's kind of what brings it down a little bit for me. I don't think it's going to have like a long-lasting impact, like something like Dunkirk did, or Saving Private Ryan or anything like that. I think this is one that will kind of fall by the wayside, as it's kind of been done before, the whole story, and this one didn't particularly do it in any way that's more profoundly better. But it was well shot, and it looked good. CGI was good in the parts where they incorporated it, but overall, practical effects and the CGI effects looked good. It kept my attention. Still a compelling storyline that deserves to be told. I think I'm going to give this one, though, I'm going to give it a 6.5.
Oh. That's decent for Ben.
I'm going to jump in here because I agree wholeheartedly with Brom. I thought it was very choppy, and I think that's part of it's just trying to cram so much into a relatively short amount of time. It's still a pretty long movie, 2 hours and like 15 minutes or something. But really, they jump from scene to scene. Like at one point, it almost comes off funny because you have the scene where you have Dick Best. He's trying to find his friend from the academy who clearly has died or potentially died in the Pearl Harbor attack. And he's like, okay, I'll find him. And now I'm expecting there to be a scene where it's like, okay, well, it can't just be super easy because someone else would have found him. So he must have to go through a few different things to find him. And he just walks up to a kid and he's like, were you with Roy? And the kid goes, yeah. He goes, do you know where he's now? Did he get off the boat? And he goes, I don't know. And that's just the end of the scene. And you're like, well, I guess they couldn't have cut that scene because it has to look like he searched a little bit. But there's all these scenes that are like super tiny, like they're so short. And even as we kind of joked at the end, it's like, I can't go up with you. You don't even care about my life. And the most they can do just with the time is for Dick Best to be like, man, you just got to do it. And the guy's like, okay. And that's the end of the thing. So like they have to keep on just having everything rush forward in order to get through all this stuff. And like Pearl Harbor seems like it happened an hour before Midway. It's almost like we regrouped right after Pearl Harbor and we're like, straight to Midway, let's do it. When that all took, much longer in the end, like a time span that was much longer than kind of depicted in the film. It almost seems like World War II happened in like 70 days or something, if you went by this film. So it's things like that kind of, it's tough, but in the middle of it, I felt like it got into this groove where I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of enjoying, it's like heroics, it's like America World War II stuff, which is very interesting. It made me want to like read more about the Pacific Theater and like all these different things. And in the end, it's like, I don't know, I think it's enjoyable. If you like World War II movies, it looks good and it feels good to kind of like watch it, as long as you don't really get hung up too much on the fact that it's probably not a very good movie, just from like a movie point of view. So I was going to come in exactly the same, 6.5. I couldn't give it a 7, but I think 6.5 makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Wow. Okay. Zach, you want to go next? You want me to go?
I'll go. All right. Midway, 2019. Roland Emmerich, Alex's guy, and I actually like a lot of his movies too. Patriot, Independence Day, 1 and 2, I think both are phenomenal. And Day After Tomorrow, one of my favorite movies
What about
ever.
2012?
Never saw it. Now,
Woody Harrelson's in that one too.
who?
It's true. Woody Harrelson.
Never heard of him.
I know who he is.
I liked Day After Tomorrow when they have to outrun the cold.
Isn't that a great part? It's kind of like The
it's really
Happening
good.
when they have to outrun the leaves.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they see the wind, like, oh shit.
So this movie, I remember seeing trailers for it and I thought it looked terrible. And I was like, this just does not look good at all. I was pleasantly surprised. And I'm actually going to agree with a lot of what Ben and Jamie said. It was better than I expected. Now, I think they just tried cramming too much history into one movie. Like, you could have cut out the entire Pearl Harbor sequence.
Yeah,
you just didn't need it.
It's a big issue because it's like I feel like they felt like they had to frame something when I think you can effectively start not that long before Midway and get across what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah.
They didn't need it. Obviously, we're sitting in the audience, we know Pearl Harbor. Like, we just didn't need that part of the story. I don't really know what the first 30 minutes of the movie really did. But then I found myself wanting to learn more, like the Doolittle raid. That was really interesting, and they didn't do much on that. It's like you were saying, Jamie, when you were reviewing the movie. It's like they showed him, once he crashed, I think they made like one scene explaining how the Japanese were murdering Chinese, but then that was it. Like, I just feel like you never saw them again. Dialogue was cringy at times. I remember noticing a few ridiculous comments by some of the actors. I thought the bombing runs were really cool, though. Like when they did the vertical drop downs, I thought that was really neat to watch because I'd never really seen that in any other movie before. But it did feel rushed. It felt choppy. I agree. Submarine scene. So we got the submarine scene.
We haven't mentioned yet the kind of lack of submarine action.
And it's barely in there.
And that's my problem with it. I was like, here we go. Subs. I know that they had a big role to play, but lo and behold, they barely showed anything. Now, what they did show, I liked. They really, even though it was short, the camera angles really showed like the claustrophobic feeling in a submarine. So I liked that. I just wish they would have, if it was me, cut the first 30 minutes and then add 15 more minutes of submarine action. Then you get a great movie.
Arguably could have took the Doolittle raids out too.
Yeah, because they didn't expand on it enough. Like, that needs to be its own movie.
Yeah.
So, we got some sub action. I liked that. It was entertaining. It was better than I expected. I liked a lot of the actors saved it for me. I love Woody Harrelson. I'm going to give it a 5.5.
All right.
I'll never see it again. But
all right.
I'm not regretting that I saw it.
Will you see the sequel, though?
Midway 2, back to Midway? Yes.
Full
of
way.
course.
Yeah. Oh, good one.
Full way.
I like that.
Full way. All right. I'll bring up the rear here. And you guys have brought up a lot of good points. And like everybody's talked about, this movie is so darn choppy. Scene to scene. Literally, we saw Dick Best on a boat. Then the next scene, we saw him at like a dance party dancing with his wife. Then we saw him back like in the middle of the Pacific. I didn't know what the heck was going on. Dick Best, to me, great character name. Was not a huge fan of the actor. I didn't find him like crazy likable or anything like that.
You didn't like him from because he was a Game of Thrones guy.
Yeah, only for one season.
He was one season, got replaced.
Hey, hold on. I'm still in the midst of
you've seen him.
I'm sure you've seen him.
This is season. Yeah, they recast him. So I think it was season 2 or season 1. I can't remember.
It'd have been 2.
Yeah,
he was the original Dario Naharis.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, yeah, I remember that because that blew me away when I was supposed to realize that was the same guy into season 3, and I was like, wait a minute, who the heck is that guy? But anyways, besides the point, he was creepy there, kind of weird here, and none of the characters were developed at all. One of the things I thought was like kind of funny was there was that guy on the surface ship. He's like, man, it wasn't the guy who said, you fly dangerously. This guy just said, I've got nerves. I'm so nervous. I can't do this. I can't be a man. Dick Best says, you got to be a man. I'll take you under my wing. It'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Literally 5 seconds later, the dude launches his plane off of the ship. It goes in the water, crashes, gets sucked under the ship, and he dies. I'm like, wow. I don't want to be Dick Best wingman at all. That looked pretty rough. Who knows? We don't know if he lived.
I think
I'm gonna guess that he didn't.
That is a really good example of something where they're trying to convey like the war and how it's kind of weighing on them, and because they have so little time, it basically has to be like one scene where they're like, "You're now my best friend," and then that best friend gets sucked under the ship and dies, and they're like
literally within 5 seconds.
The war is so tough on me. It's like, yeah, well,
tough on that guy down there who's just getting cut up by the prop. But the director guy on the scene on the beach, he came out of nowhere, and I mean, it was just really odd. Everything to me was so fragmented, so odd, so much CGI that I was just like, we get enough CGI. Come on. Like, I know that we're using this, and I didn't realize they had a $100 million budget. Most of that probably went to these big name actors who they had in these super fragmented scenes, which is just outrageous. Somebody like Woody Harrelson, you could be like, okay, we can do a 10-minute straight scene. But that's not going to happen in this movie.
No.
You're only going to get 20, 30 seconds
and it's weird because you have someone like Dennis Quaid, Aaron Eckhart, both people who you can say the entire synopsis of this movie and not mention them. Because it's just not, in the end, like the main storyline, they're just not even a part of.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what was Dennis Quaid do in that movie? Oh, he got a rash, and then they took him off. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess, whatever. Crazy. And I don't know. It's just, I wasn't really feeling this movie. I think that from 2019, we've seen a lot better movies. You want to see a really good war movie from 2019, I can't tell you enough to go see 1917. That movie is great.
How many submarines?
In that, 0.
Oh, what?
I know, right? One less than we got in this. So what can you do?
Yeah, about 3 minutes less than what we got in this one.
Yeah, if 3 minutes might be a little generous. The sub stuff in this was good, and the bombing runs, like we talked about, were really cool when they blew up the boats. That was awesome.
No wrenches on the submarine.
No wrenches. But I could not get into this for whatever reason. So, I mean,
what are you coming in
at? I'm giving it a 3.
Whoa!
My God.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll never watch this again.
God, it sounds like it didn't scratch your itch, man.
I get it. It wasn't we're a submarine podcast, and this was not really a submarine movie.
No, I think there can be an argument made that it could have been a micropod.
Micropod, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely would not have mentioned Dennis Quaid.
Right?
All right,
no.
all right.
No, we're trying to do 2019 in review. No, this is fair. There was more than what was in the micropods, but if we made it a micropod, I wouldn't have argued.
All right, listeners, you listen to us bullshit. Now, let's listen from the professionals.
It's time for you to decide. Oh, my bad.
Love it, hate it. Love it or hate it. What do you guys want to start with first?
Love it.
Yeah, I agree.
Love it. This is from Adam Smasher 39.
Nice.
Excellent movie and historically accurate is the title of his review. This is an excellent historical portrayal of the Battle of Midway and some of the events that led up to it. There is a lot of intensity throughout the film, and it shows how some of the decisions on both sides were truly a gamble in that time. There were no satellites, GPS systems, or sophisticated radar systems. The only missing pieces to this movie, as noted by others, is the lack of U.S. fighter planes. Maybe it is intended to focus mainly on the dauntless pilots. I took my wife and kids to the movie, as it seems much of the history of this country is being forgotten. I am so glad I did. The kids had no idea that any of this happened. As for the critics that wrote negative reviews and trashed this movie, I think this attributes to a lot of what is wrong with this country today. People who decided not to see this movie on Veterans Day weekend, based on the critics' reviews, are truly missing an excellent movie. This movie is historically accurate, with no lame love story or fictional sub-stories.
Hey, that's
a knock on Pearl Harbor.
denigrating
Sub-stories?
Sub-stories. No, I think they meant sub-stories, not sub-stories. But I think
Hold on here.
it's insulting Mandy Moore because talk about love story. It's electric. It's at best.
I think it's more of praise that she wasn't the Kate Beckinsale love story of Pearl Harbor.
There's not a triangle with McCluskey or something.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what makes a classic sub movie too, is a love triangle.
I know, and I gotta say, I love a love triangle.
Oh.
Think about the OC. Love it.
I love the OC. Great show.
It's a love triangle.
Don't call it that.
You are offending Ben. Do not call it a great show.
I will.
No, you're
I
saying
think it's a
don't
great
call
show.
it
The OC. It's a Arrested Development reference. Sorry. A lot of references tonight.
Yeah.
That very few people probably caught. I apologize.
So anyways.
I hate it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, I hate it. This is from Heijo7713, titled I Am in Shock.
I like that title right there. That's a gripping title.
Well, I'll try to read it in a gripping manner. I can't believe how anyone would call this an excellent, worth-to-see WW2 movie. Not arguing the historical background of the battle, but how Emmerich is turning the events into Independence Day in the Pacific is a disgrace. The intentional dead stick landing on the carrier would have been the right moment to leave the cinema. It would have saved me 2 hours of my life that I will never get back. I could go on for hours ranting about this terrible movie, but I will stop wasting more time on this utter crap. Kids, if you want to watch realistic war movies, go see Tora 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 or The Battle of Britain. Avoid this mess at all cost. There you go, kids.
All right.
Avoid it.
Specifically, kids.
I know. Go see Tora 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 instead. All right.
And who was that from again? Heijo?
That was hate it was Heijo7713.
There you go, man.
I liked his other reviews. They were good. All right, I'm going to get into a little trivia. Be pretty quick with this one. Emmerich had previously attempted to mount this film with Sony Pictures in the 90s. As mentioned, he ended up moving on to direct The Patriot instead because despite interest from William Goldman, the famous screenwriter, the executives balked at the proposed $100 million budget. So that was back in the 90s, and he had the exact same budget proposal as he ended up having now, which is kind of crazy. There are a number of historical inaccuracies in the film, noted on the Wikipedia page if people are interested, but they're pretty minor. I actually do think that first one, where they're saying that it's fairly historically accurate, is true. It's interesting. There are some weird inaccuracies. Like they talk about the USS Nautilus, and since we're a submarine podcast, I thought I'd mention this one, that it attacked an enemy carrier in the film and missed it. It didn't actually attack a carrier. It attacked a Japanese battleship called the Kirishima. So I don't really totally understand why that's inaccurate in the film. Like it seems a little odd that they just kind of made some random changes like that. Like, nah, it's not as cool for them to attack a battleship. Let's have them attack the carrier. It's like, okay, that's weird, but fine. It was Edwin Layton's idea to invite John Ford to shoot the footage of the Midway battle. He thought it would be good for morale. It ended up being edited into a film, The Battle of Midway, which was released in 1942. And Ford was so pleased with the result that Layton actually ended up getting a part in one of his later films, Big Jim McLean, in 1952. I don't think there's a submarine in that one, so we won't watch it, though.
Dang it.
And then before the closing credits, the movie teases a sequel about the Battle of Philippine Seas. And that movie has a 2022 release date. Now, this is trivia. Is this true? I don't even know if this is actually a thing that's happening. Is there actually a sequel happening to this movie?
I have no idea.
Seems crazy.
Was that before? Was that after the credits or something? What was?
That's what it said. It said before the closing credits, the movie teases a sequel about the Battle of the Philippine Seas.
It said Dick Best will fly again.
Oh, did it? Okay, so there we go.
Definitely not.
I was about to say, there's no way
I'll never fly again. I'll fly again.
Oh yeah, that's right. He wouldn't have flown again.
Yeah.
Does anyone
more of a James Bond reference? Sorry again for the references.
I got it. I loved it.
I didn't get it. Do you guys want to do I think if we're gonna do a Jeopardy real quick, we're gonna do buzzers this time. All right.
Oh,
so
shit.
I got three different. You got to say your name if you want to buzz in for it. So I got three different categories you can choose from. Wars by battle. So I'll say a battle and a date, and you give me the war that it was part of. This one, which one was this one?
And do we buzz in like buzz?
No, you say your name. Say Zac. Your name to buzz in. Right, exactly. So then then one's called the movies, and that's one where it's trivia about movies. And then I got one that is. Let me find this one. This one is called 1988. So these are all things that happen in 1988.
Zac was born.
All right. So which one do you want to do? Do you want to do 1988 the movies, or Wars by Battle?
Wars by Battle. Wars by Battle.
Called it first. Let's just go with it.
Fits with the movie.
Zac, since you called it first, you get to choose.
Cool.
200, 400, 600, 800, or 1,000.
Dude, you got to give me that hot dog in 1,000.
All right. Remember, buzz in with your name. 1415, the Battle of Agincourt.
Holy shit. 1415?
1415, the Battle of Agincourt.
I don't know.
God, 1415.
And we're supposed to give you the name of the war?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
If it ain't American, it doesn't matter.
I think that's a triple stumper.
No, hang on. No. Zac.
All right, it's going to be a negative 1,000 if you miss it.
I know, but there's not that many fucking wars back in the 1400s. I think it's too early. I want to say what I'm going to guess is in the 1500s, but I'm going to say the 100 Years' War.
That is correct.
Holy shit, yes.
Dang it, dude. That was what I was...
I'm the smartest man alive. Billy Madison.
All right. Zac, what do you want to go next? 200, 400, 600, 800?
Let's drop it down to 200. Let's get that easy for Ben.
All right.
Kyle, you mean?
1942, the Battle of Midway.
Kyle,
what is it?
World War II.
You got it.
Kyle.
Yeah. And Kyle's not going to control the board. So what do you want? 400, 600, 800? All right, 800. 1951, the Battle of Heartbreak Ridge.
Zac.
What you got?
Korean War.
That is correct. The Korean War.
Dang it.
You.
400, 600.
You win. You win.
400.
1814, the Battle of Lake Champlain.
Zac.
What do you got?
War of 1812.
Correct.
Thank you.
Look at this kid. All right, we got one more. 600, 1898, the Battle of San Juan Hill.
Kyle.
What do you got?
Spanish-American War.
It's true.
Nice, Kyle.
All right, so you
Good
couldn't
one.
quite catch up. I got to say, Brom, not a great showing on this week's
Sorry.
episode.
Not a war or history buff.
I used to teach early American history, so.
I was going to say, Zach was always studying that in college. So
Well, that's why I knew. That's why I knew.
SOL.
Yeah, that's why I knew the 100 Years' War, because it's super early American history, like really early.
It's one of those, if it wasn't timed and I'd come around to it because I could think about it. Well, it's after Civil War, blah, 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 blah. I'd have got to it.
All right, I'm going to do some quick other stuff. The film is a series of collaborations. So it's the second collaboration between Woody Harrelson and Roland Emmerich. So 2012 was that one. So what do you think about John Cusack? Who could he have played?
Oh, God.
I feel like he could have been John. I feel like he looked like John Ford, kind of. I feel like he could have played that director. Okay.
He
I
could have.
guess, but then you would have been like, wait, was that just John Cusack in this
That happened a lot in this
extremely
movie.
minor role?
No, just make him one of the people that just died really quick.
Good idea. What about Dennis Quaid and Roland Emmerich? They were in The Day After Tomorrow with Jake Gyllenhaal. What about that one?
Jake.
So he could be Dick Best.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Really?
That's pretty good. Oh, do you think he should be a McCluskey type character?
Man, Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know. I don't think I agree with those. Maybe he's the wingman for Dick Best.
He could do a
Oh,
lot
he
of
sucked
things.
right under the plane.
Not that wingman, the actual co-pilot, the
Yeah,
gunner.
the co-pilot, the gunner.
The gunner, yeah.
Okay, so Mandy Moore and Dennis Quaid, they were in a film called American Dreams with Hugh Grant, but most importantly, Chris Klein from American Pie. So both Hugh Grant and Chris Klein, who are they?
Chris Klein could play
Dick Best.
Yeah, Dick Best, absolutely.
Or I think he might have been a good McCluskey too. Kind of like not as major of a role, but kind of on the side, being like, "Hey, I'm McCluskey."
He could have been the rival too that got shot down.
And then Hugh Grant,
Hugh
Nimitz?
Grant.
I think it'd be hard to have a British
I'd like
Yeah,
to
there
person
weren't any
play-
British characters in this really.
British actors. Yeah, sure. Evans is. I mean, I think a bunch of the main characters were British actors, but no British characters. I see what you're saying.
Right.
And then, obviously, the most important collaboration. This was the second collaboration between Ed Harris and Nick Jonas. Now, it wasn't a movie they collaborated. They were originally in a boy band together. It was called CDT. Does anyone remember what CDT stand for? Their boy band.
CDT. Oh my gosh.
What was those? What was that again?
I've got an idea, but I'm not going to say it.
Well, it stood for Cream Dream Team, right? So CDT. And it included Ed Harris. He was called Cream for his smoky, soothed voice and all the cream he rubbed on his rippling abs, right? And then Dream was Nick Jonas because he was real dreamy, but also he had a debilitating case of narcolepsy. That was kind of a shtick on stage. And then Team was actually Christian Bale because he was the glue that held the team together. And yeah, they had that famous one-hit. They were really a one-hit wonder with the Cream Dream Team. The self-titled Cream Dream Team, the song that was on their initial release, which is the Cream Dream Team. It was a self-titled.
I can't get over you just saying Cream Dream.
Cream Dream Team.
My word. Yeah. I would make them all of our Japanese generals.
It's a good idea. It'd be basically like a Cream Dream Team, like whatever they call it, like when they reunite and do like a new tour.
A
like
reunion?
A reunion tour, yeah. For this movie. All right, and then quickly, Phantom Zone.
Engage the Phantom.
Phantoms engaged, sir.
Well, this one's pretty easy because me and Kyle, we cozied up together in a darkened movie theater to enjoy the visual splendor of Aquaman. I don't know if you remember that one.
All right.
We did.
Sure.
We watched Aquaman together. Didn't we? Or no?
No, we did not. I saw that in theaters by myself.
I think I must have saw it in theaters by myself too, but you were next to me in spirit.
Okay.
And but we did both get to enjoy the visual splendor of Patrick Wilson in both that film and Midway. And so not only in that film do we have Dolph Lundgren and Willem Dafoe, and they had Life Aquatic, Agent Red, Blackwater, these other films, but also Nicole Kidman, who was in Batman Forever. And that one's a perfect one for a micropod in the future, because at one point the Batmobile becomes a submarine. It kind of like jettisons off its wings.
Love to be in on that one.
And it cruises, and it's a terrible movie. It almost immediately gets destroyed by a torpedo. It's great. So anyways, the movie features Tommy Lee Jones, and that takes us back to one of the worst films I've ever seen, Mechanic Resurrection, which I've used a whole bunch of times in these Phantom Zones. And that's it, Phantom Zone. And I'm
awesome.
Outie.
It's impressive. It's impressive. I can't believe that all these, well, I guess all these people are just working. You can't just do one sub movie, right?
No. No way.
Would you, Kyle?
Would I ever just do one?
Would you do one or would you do 50? Come on.
All right. If it was my own movie that I was directing, the one I'm writing right now, yes, I would do, because it's going to be the best that's anyone's ever seen. And no, I won't let you know what it's about yet, but think Waterworld.
Time travel.
Yeah. Hold on. Not like that one with Bryan Cranston. Yeah, that's... I'd do one, and then I'd probably get the itch and be like, I'm going to do 100 of these. Just or like this podcast, right?
Or at least 99 of them.
At least 99. All right. Brom, do you have a countdown for us?
I do, gentlemen. Tube 3 ready to fire, sir.
Commence the countdown.
4, 3, 2, 1. Give it to me.
As we know, COVID-19 is sweeping the nation, and it is important for everyone to do what they can to obviously shelter in place where possible, and to take care of your immune system. So obviously have a good diet, and you can still go outside and exercise, and wherever possible, you can supplement your diet with some vitamins and nutrients. So tonight I'm sharing the top 5 vitamins actually worth taking, and this is from A Place for Mom senior living blog.
Nice.
We've had some support from Dana in the past from A Place for Mom, but tonight we're working with Lauren Storm. If you need to find a place for your mom, contact a senior living advisor at 866-333-2174.
Great.
That's not a sponsor technically, I don't think.
No.
Not
We're
yet.
sponsoring them.
Vitamins become more significant to our health as we age, especially when we reach age 50 and above, ages that are particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. I added that part in there. But with so many supplements available to us, it can be difficult to make out which vitamins are actually worth taking. Number 5, omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. Aside from the well-publicized heart-healthy and brain-healthy benefits, omega-3s have been shown to reduce the symptoms of dry eye syndrome, which is reported to affect a majority of Americans over the age of 65. And if your eyes are dry, you might touch your eyes, and that's how you got COVID-19. So get those omega-3 fatty acids in you.
That's good.
All right, now
I
this
take
isn't...
some.
You take them?
No.
Figured.
Actually, I do.
I think it's in a lot of fish.
I take 2 fish oil pills every day.
All right. Number 4, vitamin B12. B12 helps keep the body's nerve and blood cells healthy. It also plays a role in preventing anemia and even memory loss. Number 3 is magnesium.
Wait. I'm sorry, Ben.
Yeah.
What was number 4?
Vitamin B12.
Now, is that the one that impacts your semen levels?
It doesn't say anything about that here. That could have something to do with it, this article being designed for 60-year-old folks and older who aren't
Just
really
checking.
concerned about their semen levels. So I'm not sure. Number 3 was magnesium, helps to regulate blood sugar levels, and there's strong evidence that it can be helpful in the treatment of type 2 diabetes. It is also important for bone density, blood pressure, and muscle and nerve function. Number 2 is zinc. Zinc is essential for at least 100 enzymatic reactions throughout the body. It plays a crucial role in immunity, wound healing, and a proper sense of taste and smell.
I need to jump in about zinc. I need to put in a plug. I swear by zinc therapy for common colds and stuff like that. I take it. I am stocked up. I've got like 6 bottles. Zicam is the name brand form of zinc-based cold therapy. That stuff's crazy expensive. Don't get that stuff. Get the off-brand stuff. The wall cam from Walgreens or Walmart's version. Works wonders. I love it.
There you go. Look at that.
Also, question, not a sponsor?
Dicam? Definitely not. Name brand?
just zinc?
What about is it zinc? Is
Just
Walgreens?
zinc. Zach's zinc.
The Zinc Association of America is putting money in the pockets of Zach. It is important for us to note that here. This is sponsored. This is sponsored content.
Wait, Big Zinc? Big Zinc has you under
the big
their
zinc
thumb?
industry. Yep. They got to us, guys.
Zam!
Number one, anybody want to take a guess on this one? This is the one that I
already
do
know
supplement with. Go ahead.
I know what it is. It's found in Monster Energy Vitamin B6.
Leave it to Kyle to bring up Monster Energy drink.
Not a
But
sponsor.
that is incorrect. It is actually calcium. It's essential, especially to women, to prevent bone loss that leads to osteoporosis after menopause. But it is also important for men who may experience bone loss in later years as well. Dr. Lindsay Jones Bourne recommends taking it with vitamin D to maximize absorption, which is something I do because I have some lactose intolerance and I need to get calcium in me. But thank you very much to A Place for Moms Senior Living blog. This was the top 5 vitamins actually worth taking.
I liked it, Ben. That was good stuff.
Thank you.
Do they have an updated list yet of the hottest older actors or whatever that we
No,
read
I
before?
think they've actually taken it down.
Are you serious? Come on.
I tried to find it and I could not find it anymore. The writer is still there, but they appear to have taken it down. I don't know, maybe if more people have maybe died on that list, I'd have to go back and look at it. But
yeah, the bench
it
is
might
a
be
little,
too
little
difficult
shallow
for
right
them
now.
to keep it updated.
Right.
That's it.
I loved it.
It was good.
Yeah. Super good. And then on to everyone's favorite.
Kyle, wait, you don't have anything?
You don't have subs worldwide?
I don't have subs worldwide,
You
man.
didn't get one sub from World War II.
No, I did not.
I'm going to type in rarest sub. Rarest.
Thank you.
Rarest sub.
WW2 submarine.
We need something.
We'll see
It's
what's
good
the
podcasting.
rarest one.
Episode
Oh,
99.
a rare World War II. So,
We're not
What
getting
was the
serious
best
until
submarine?
episode 100 on this podcast.
Yeah. That's when everything really gets big.
U.S. submarine that vanished on its first mission was found on August 5th of 2019. The USS Grunion. That sounds dirty.
The Grunion.
The Grunion.
Ooh,
It's like a
look at that
grunge-
little Grunion.
It's like a grungy onion.
But that's what an onion looks like after an onion turns into a grunion when it's been in your house for like 10 days.
Right. But so it's a Gatto class. You already did that one though, right?
I know. I've done a lot of these.
I don't know if is there 100 different types of subs in the world?
Oh,
Yes.
I bet there
yes.
is.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like a countdown to me.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to blow out that. Did you ever do a macro class? That was the one that preceded the Grunion.
Save that for the macropod.
Yeah. Macro
Oh, good one,
class.
the macro button. All right. Fine, Kyle. You're off the hook.
I'm off the hook, man.
It was preceded
right.
by the timbre class. The macro was preceded by the timbre. It's preceded by the Sargo class.
Give me those Zac Facts.
Zac Facts, it's Zac Facts when you're going,
When you're going
down.
down.
Zac Facts when you're
Going
going
down.
Zac Facts. Guys, we got a lot of facts. A lot of facts. Stay in your seats. Park the car wherever you're listening to your podcast. Get out of the tub. Sit down on the floor on your towel. Listen to these Zac Facts. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 facts for you.
What?
Wow.
Get ready. Get
Unprecedented.
ready. The facts are coming for you. Number 1.
Can you guys tell that we've been off work?
I got 28 facts for you.
Still can't get an episode out on time.
Yeah, talking about it's like 100th episode. Yeah, I got 100 Zac Facts for you.
Let's take a Zac fact from every episode. Anyways, fact number 1. The first cut of the movie was previewed on the heels of the #MeToo movement and had all the Japanese roles as American women, but this idea was scrapped. Which leads me to fact number 2. All the Japanese soldiers were actually played by Chinese actors. When asked about this choice, the director, Roland Emmerich, said he knew American audiences wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
Fact
Yikes.
number 3. Roland Emmerich originally wanted to make the main character, Richard Dickbest, fictional with the name Richard Dick Cass, who would be Russell Cass's father. Now, does
Who's
anybody know
Russell
who
Cass?
Russell Cass is?
Russ
No.
Cass.
Like Papa Cass and Mama Cass?
No. Russell Cass flew planes in Vietnam. He would later go on to save the entire world in Independence Day.
I pulled him up and I was like, oh, there he is. Oh my gosh. It's Randy Quaid.
Yes, Randy freaking Quaid. Fact number 4. Speaking of Quaids, Dennis Quaid's rash was real and infected the entire cast because he was known for sleeping in other actors' bed as a joke.
It's a good joke.
Wakes up. Oh, got you. Oh, Dennis.
You got Quaided, bro.
Fact number 5. The first take of Nick Jonas's character featured his stunt double, who could not untie the knot after he was thrown into the ocean. The second take was shot in a swimming pool for safety.
Well, guess he's gone. Oh, my word.
Fact number 6, and the last fact, if you're still listening. Aaron Eckhart walked by Woody Harrelson on set and called him Admiral Chester Nimwitz as a joke.
Oh.
Woody punched Aaron in the face and was quoted saying, "You a bad man and the real Nimwit. Stay fucked. I'm Woody Harrelson." And there you go. That's the Zac Facts.
Wow. Wow.
Woody. Savage.
Stay fucked, listeners.
Thank you for listening to Submersion. Don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every Thursday. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating wherever you listen. Want to interact with us? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also love to get messages from all of you. If you have a suggestion, a comment, or just anything you'd like to share, please email us at macestudios@gmail.com.